Welcome to the Asset Revolution podcast, where each week your hosts from Arbor Digital provide educational opportunities for financial advisors and individual investors to gain knowledge in this emerging powerhouse that is digital asset investing. The Asset Revolution podcast is your connection to the future of digital assets and an opportunity for anyone to get off zero. Let's dive in. All righty, everybody. Welcome back to the Asset Revolution podcast. I am humbled to have two very important people in my professional space, professional network, as well as just in my human network. So Tyrone Ross, Adam Blumberg, welcome back to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us, man.
Great to be here, Mark. Thanks for organizing this, sending us the email late last week, early this week, and getting us on here.
Absolutely. I think all three of us play an important role, not just in what's been happening, but I think in the years to come, that role is only going to be amplified, in my humble opinion. So getting us all together was, kind of just a natural thing. So, but just in case you don't know who they are, who I am, let's just do a quick intro. Tyrone, real quick, let the audience know who you are and kind of why you're here.
First and foremost, son of superhero parents, Carol and Tyrone Ross. Secondarily, the CEO and co-founder of a company called Turnqey Labs, which is an API suite for crypto data. And then the principal and founder of 401 Financial, which is a registered investment advisor here in Cali.
Awesome. Adam.
Adam Blumberg. I'm a certified financial planner, was in the financial service business for over a dozen years. Ron, my partner, Ron Dixon, and I started Interaxis a few years ago, primarily teach financial professionals about crypto and DeFi, how to make it part of their practice. And then we started PlannerDAO, which is the decentralized organization for financial professionals.
Wonderful. And I think to set the stage here, between the three of us, there is a host of years and wisdom that has been built across different roles in not just crypto, but in the traditional financial industry, which is going to help frame just the lens at which you're going to hear our conversation today. And our conversation is going to be all about trust. For me, that word has taken different meanings over different stages of my life and my career as a financial advisor, as someone who's responsible for helping guide people in living their best lives and using the means at which they've worked so hard to build to do that. So trust is obviously hugely important. So where I'd like to start then is, and one, I guess, before, this isn't going to be a recap of what's been going on. This isn't going to be a recap of FTX. We'll probably go through something in natural conversation that we're about to have here. But if you're listening right now, this will not be a recap of what's been going on. We will post some resources for anyone who needs to start from the beginning. But where we're going to start from today is we are now at a stage where we're finding out more and more of what the ramification, what relationships were set, how things have been building on top of each other over the last 3 to 5 years in certain areas. So I'd like to start off with Adam. Just where are you at with things? Like, what's your thought process right now with how things have been shaking out?
Honestly, look, my thought process starting a couple of weeks ago when things started breaking, and I mean breaking both figuratively in the news sense and breaking in the literal everything broke in crypto sense. There's quite a bit of frustration there. I don't have as much frustration as most because I've had so many other things going on in my life that, to be honest, put a lot of things in perspective, right? Things like selling a house and moving and Thanksgiving and family and all that puts a whole lot of things in perspective. Now, saying all that, I know that for what I've chosen as my career and what we've all three of us have chosen to the industry to go into, which is kind of the finance crypto industry. And then thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, we don't know the number of people in the world that have lost a significant amount of money due to all this. It's very sad and frustrating. And some of the frustration, the frustration obviously goes in different directions. It goes towards regulators who didn't do their jobs, didn't move quickly enough in some cases, or forced some of these, poor poor entities or poor choices. Then you have the actual people committing fraud. And then you have those that probably should have done more due diligence with the billions of dollars they were entrusted with. So you have all sorts of places to blame. So I have quite a bit of frustration on that level. But look, I honestly also have some bit of calmness to me because Mark, I apologize. I don't remember your age, but I know roughly how old Tyrone is. And I know we were old enough to see the internet up and down. And I have a bit of calmness knowing what happened there and knowing that this is a very close parallel to what happened where the early days of the internet were all about the price of stocks. They had very little to do with the actual use cases of the internet. Very few people in 2001 had any clue where the internet was going to go or why they would read something on a website or buy something from Amazon. But 99 and 2000, everyone just bought anything with the .com after it in terms of stock prices. And then it crashed, and then we built the internet. And it's turned out to be a pretty good thing and billions of jobs, billions of dollars, trillions of dollars in investment, in money made because of the internet, having absolutely nothing to do with stock prices, having everything to do with the technology. So I feel a little comfort in that, in terms of the fact that I think what we all kind of believe should happen with crypto, DeFi, blockchain technology, decentralized ledger technology, whatever we want to call it, is still probably going to happen. And I honestly feel a great bit of calmness towards that. I feel a great bit of calmness towards the idea that we're learning a really, really hard lesson in terms of the need for decentralization and self-custody and all the great things. And it's going to go that way. The frustration is the billions of dollars that are lost in the process and the people that negatively affects. That's where the frustration, and the fact that for all three of us, our job just got a lot harder. Like what we chose to go into was hard enough and it just got a lot harder. And I'm just like I wasn't beating my head against a wall enough to begin with.
Yeah.
And now we got to go do it again.
Yeah.
And now I got to go explain this again. Like we already had to explain stuff from earlier in the year. And now we got to make a bigger explanation.
Yeah. And Tyrone, you were mentioning something even as we were jamming before this a little bit, is, it's kind of a double whammy for us, TradFi, or people who came from the traditional financial world into this new evolutionary world that's crypto is building. So talk to us a little bit about your thoughts right now.
They're all over the place, and I have a lot of really strong feelings and emotions about it. I'm not upset at regulators. The regulators couldn't have stopped this. They didn't stop Madoff. They wouldn't have stopped this kid from doing what he's doing. I'm not mad at the regulators. Again, you can't be mad at people that let you know who they are. The regulators have proven that they're not going to do anything. Mm-hmm. Will we get regulation now? Will they be overhanded? For sure. Right? The other thing is, in my life, I've learned through crisis that it's easy to point away as opposed to draw in and say, what role did I play in this? Right? And I really wanted to reflect on the role that I played, and as an industry we played, on making him and anointing him to be the face of our industry. Now, I know collectively we didn't do it, but I think the three of us, a month ago, if you had said, hey, what do you think of FTX and SBF? We probably would have had some really positive things to say. So I think we did a horrible job of anointing the leadership and those that we trusted enough to be the face of what we were all working hard for. The other part of drawing in and looking at it is, you have to say, did I do enough? Did I use the mantle and the platform enough that I have to be able to speak to things that I know to be a problem? And having raised venture capital over the last year and a half, pattern matching is a real thing. I've had white men tell me that my idea was inevitable and didn't fund it because I didn't look like them. But if it was him and the idea was inevitable, he gets to raise $420 million and take $330 million for himself. If I took $30 from a round that I had raised, I'd never raise capital again. So the pattern matching that VCs go through, not speaking up on behalf, like being louder about those that go through the struggle of trying to build anything, let alone building in crypto.
Mm-hmm.
The underlying discrimination that was there, those of us that were a part of it didn't speak up enough, didn't scream loud enough, because it would have affected, at least there would have been an echo in the corner that stopped that. So I think I was forced to draw in and look at a part of it and then go, am I proud to be a part of an industry of the things that have happened? Just let's go over the last 3 years. The hacks, billions of dollars in hacks, the fraud, for me, the lost narrative of what this technology actually does for the people who actually need it, that was purposely drowned out. Purposely. Because that doesn't raise billions of dollars. What role did I play in that? Now, I know people could go back. If you check my Twitter, any podcast that I've been on, I've always brought it up. But I'm one voice. And I tried to say it on his biggest platform. I sat on a stage at Consensus in New York, in the middle of New York City, and said it. Every opportunity that I had, I said it. So that's the drawing in part. The other part of it is looking at now what this is about, trust, right? The trust is gone, completely gone. So now you're talking about money, right? And money is inherently trust. I trust that if I give you a $5 bill, you know it's $5. I know it's $5. You walk into the store knows it's $5. You can buy $5 worth of goods. Trust, that's it. That's a big thing. Mm-hmm. But what you're seeing now is, if you talk to anyone that's behind the scenes, exchanges, market makers, counterparties don't trust one another. People in the space will say it's Bitcoin and crypto, but don't lump crypto in with Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is not crypto. And right? So there's no trust anymore. There's looking across where, all right, now I was an influencer, or I had this company on my podcast and I thought it was good and I'm a customer, but now do I trust this company enough? Now I don't even know. If I was to publicly sit and talk about all the things that I know on a podcast with people that I know and experience that I've had behind the scenes, it would blow people's minds. So there's a reason, if I can't be comfortable, if Adam comes to me with the project and go, I'll give you a perfect example, Interaxis, right? If I put my name behind this, and when I was at OnRamp, put my name behind it, still put my name behind it. Now, if it turns out that he was taking all the money and buying whatever and taking his family on extravagant trips and all that, I still have to go, no, this is someone I've known since 2018, and I've spoken to it, and I've known that, and now everyone's forced to look at their relationships and go, Adam, really? That's unfair, because I would do anything for Adam. I'd do anything for you. So now you're forced to look at relationships, and I'll end here by saying this. We just put out a tweet last week about educational resources and things at 411. We were going to put it out. And there were some companies in there that I know things about. Now, I said, take them out. Because not only do we want to vet just in terms of what we're promoting as an investment advisor, but attaching yourself to any brand now, you better be very, very careful. And to me, that's heartbreaking, man. So I can go on, but those are the things that just, you never would have had to do that before, because there was such a great community of people that you just felt were doing the right things. And now you go, not you, So
no, no, thank you. That's so much to go off of and where we want to go. This is exactly why we're having this conversation. I mean, the trust, right? This is a trust episode to talk about these things, and we feel every single thing that you've mentioned in our own way. We can never feel it exactly the way you do, because we are not you. And I think that's an important thing. So your perspective is hugely important, regardless of the role that you end up deciding you played in after doing that self-reflection. But the fact is, we're all going through that. We're all having to sit back and say, what part did I play? We've definitely done that. I made a post on LinkedIn the other day because I was trying to gather what have I been doing for the last 2 years to help? What have I actually been doing in terms of adding value? And I sat down, I was just writing down this list. I was reflecting, I was journaling, and I was like, then it wasn't about whether it was good or bad or anything. It was just what was. And so I then turned that into a post, and I was like, well, here are the things I did do. I know I had a conversation with somebody who put a lot of money in this, had no idea what to do after they, in 2021, had no idea what to do with all of it. And it was a lot of money. And they just came with their hand open and said, I have no idea what I'm doing now. This is real for me. Okay, that's one thing we did. We came out with things, and sure, we did play a role in saying, of talking about the technology and talking about what was going on aside from, SBF or FTX or these centralized player. But the fact is we also did put our faith and trust. And were we a little willfully behind with some of the centralized players that we are now finding out?
Yeah.
That's a hard pill to swallow.
100%. And the answer is yes, we were. And just to not to belabor the point there, but that's exactly what I thought about. Look at all the work that you all have done at Arbor Digital to educate advisors. What Adam has done.
Yep.
Do not pass go, right? Go right back. Start all over again. So it's that part of it that's very frustrating. And again, I'm confident none of us are leaving, and we'll double down on our efforts. That's not what I'm talking about here. But I just think that it is so deflating to me that we're eating our own, right? Like what happened with Travis Kling, and Travis is one of the smartest, most capable people we got. Now, again,
real quick, who's Travis, Ty?
Travis Kling is he runs Ikigai.
Yep.
Which is fun, right? But I've met Travis. I know Adam had super smart, and is super smart dude, really good dude, one of our best, right? 75%.
And one of the early guys, right? One of the early guys to have a hedge fund in crypto, but ran it always on the up and up.
Yep. Now, again, you could talk about his due diligence and having that much there or whatever. Okay, fine. Right? Like that. Again, that's not the point here, but it's just we're really eating our own. My DMs are full of people that won't say it publicly that have crypto lost, it, whether it's an FTX or locked up in Gemini Earn or something like that. It's sad. And these are people who are like in our space. So anyway, it's that part that just makes it tough. We're eating our own. It's terrible.
Adam, again, as one of the stalwarts of educating, and the mission is of educating some of these smart people to help them understand what this space is, what's going on, what the technology is, how to bring it into clients' lives in a meaningful way that isn't irresponsible. Talk to us about what you're seeing and what you're feeling in terms of trust with everyone.
Look, this, Mark, like you both have kind of heard me talk and heard some of the things we teach. And we teach a lot about how the tech works and where it's going to be used in the future. And we try to make it very clear when we're teaching this stuff. This is not about get rich quick. This is not about teaching you which token is going to go up 100x or how to, get 200%, yield or something like that. That's not the goal here. The goal is to understand the technology, because we feel like this is going to be the next version of the internet, the next version of finance, all those things. Like, I remember, Tyrone, we did a podcast one time, and you asked me for a quote, what's crypto going to look like in 10 years? I said, it's not. We're just going to call it finance. That's all it's going to be. It's just going to be the financial system. And so we've tried to be very focused on that. But I know there have been plenty of times, especially in 2021, when everything was running up, when I was one of those guys too, beating my chest going, see, I told you, we told you this was coming, because prices were going up, even though we knew that it really wasn't about prices. And we knew that most of that had no basis, had very little basis, but we thought, all right, maybe this will go up. Maybe it'll run. People got interested. More people got interested. And we weren't necessarily there to throw the brakes on and go, maybe we need to chill a little bit. In terms of what we're talking about here, trust, I think we're learning a little bit more about who we can trust and who we can't. And I think where we're getting to is, Tyrone alluded to it earlier, and you, Mark, that just in the financial services world, for financial advisors and, anyone in financial services, you already have a lot of trust hurdles to clear, right? And you've had that, especially for several years, when you've had plenty of people saying everyone should just manage their own funds. You've had robo advisors. You've had advisors, trying their best to try to beat market returns, and they just can't do it. And they try every trick they can to beat it, and they just can't do it. figuring out for an advisor how why your fees are worth it for the clients, all those trust issues you already have as an advisor. We're learning now in our space, in the crypto space, I guess, who we can trust. And as you both know, a big part of crypto is you don't necessarily trust. You trust the chain, right? You trust actual data that's on chain. And what we're learning, if we go back and look at, let's go all the way back to, to all the way back as if it's so far, right? To Luna, which was actually still this year, to Terra, and then Celsius and Voyager and 3AC and all that. There were people on Twitter, there were people on LinkedIn warning, going, I've looked at the data, I've looked at, wallets, I've seen what's happening, or here's where this incentive mechanism is going to break. And no one paid attention because they weren't the regular financial people or the regular crypto people saying it. So now maybe there's a move towards, all right, if someone knows how to read the data and make sense of it, we're kind of going to start trusting them. Like that's the direction we're going to go is just from the crypto DeFi blockchain space. That's kind of what it's there for. And if we want to get really theoretical and philosophical overall, like how much, it sounds horrible, but especially this time of year, but how much trust do we have overall in people, right? Especially when it comes to money. And the problem is we don't have a lot of it. You don't have a lot of trust in people, in other people when it comes to money. You're naturally skeptical of everyone when it comes to giving your money. Mm-hmm. And maybe we're learning, all right, this blockchain thing, this technology can give you the ability to trust someone because I can see exactly what's happening with my money all the time. And now this person is just going to be able to give me advice, right? I'm not going to necessarily have to turn my money over to them. However, they can still help me. I can still get help without actually having to give them my money, because actually having to give them my money or give a custodian my money was the most efficient way to do it before. But maybe now we have the technology to make it better, right? To where I don't have to trust you necessarily with my money. I can trust you as a person who knows more about finance than I do and therefore can help me. That's what I need.
Yeah.
And I apologize. I went a really roundabout circle kind of thing, but
no,
that's what you get the day after Thanksgiving, man.
And for everyone tuning in, we are recording this. It's Friday, November 25th. So it is the day after Thanksgiving. So happy belated to everyone who's listening to this. But I guess, instead of going into the more theoretical, I kind of want to now jump to where do we start? I think this is my question to you both. Being, you both have such pivotal roles, as we mentioned, in this space and have played one for the last, however many years, 4, 5, 6, somewhere, and Matt Kleski isn't here, but, we've jammed on this a little bit. But where do we start? How do we start rebuilding that trust, whether it ends up being in code or in advisors or in centralized entities? I don't really want to expound upon that, because again, we can speculate, but where do we even start? What's the first step? So Tyrone, have you been able to reflect on something like that yet?
I have, and I could talk about what I've been doing and what I've encouraged, my partner to do as far as on the RA side, and even what I have on founders at Turnqey. First thing I've started doing is I went right back to square one, started learning all over again. Mm-hmm. Right. And I just went back to listening to podcasts and reading things and just going back and saying, all right, where are the gaps? Right. Like what could I do better? What can I communicate more? So just kind of went back and basically like I'm a noob. Right. And I'm going to start learning all over again to reinforce the message. The other thing is I started to look at my inner circle, and I started to look at the people that I follow and separate those that proselytize versus those that want to educate and inspire and motivate and that are committed to change, and started to filter that. And I think the last thing is, at some point, and I alluded to this on LinkedIn, at some point, we have to start adding value to people in a way that is seamless and beautiful and easy. So it's not a sell at Thanksgiving. They're coming to you and saying, hey, Adam, help me set up this wallet because I have to, right? Like we have to flip it now. So there has to and I said this, I think there needs to be I think I alluded this to, I may have said this to Adam in some of our messages and communication with one another. There needs to be a convergence now. The most capitalized teams with the most talented teams with the, with those with, the marketing and we got to converge, right? We got to get the best teams together. Maybe that's M&A, maybe that's consolidation, maybe it's working together, but we have to create experiences that make people want to be here and people want to learn. They don't care about any of the stuff that we care about, right? Throw it all out. Is this going to make my life better or not? If not, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I just think that's where we need to go. If it's not going to make people's lives better, just don't open your mouth about it.
Look, I think that's really important, and so jealous on this podcast because Tyrone has all the better answers than I do.
Stop it.
But I think it is really important to go back and go, what are we really doing here? Like, we're not here, and I think it's the three of us, and we can speak all high and mighty about ourselves as if we're above it all. Like I've been just as much in the middle of talking about how awesome crypto is, even when other people aren't. But I think it's really important for us to go back to what it really should be. And I think I alluded to that at some point in the beginning was, what is the technology for? Why am I excited about it? Why did I get excited about it back in 2017, 2018 when it was crashing? And I was still excited about it because I was like, the technology is kind of the important thing. There is obviously a monster financial impact, but what we have to look at, as Tyrone said, is this actually going to impact people's lives in a positive way? Where does it impact people's lives in a positive way? Do we have to shove it down their throat to do it? And that's the hard thing. And if you ask, okay, where do we go from here? I honestly think where we go is we just chill and have a little bit of patience and stop trying to shove $100 billion worth of VC money down crypto's throat, because then you're going to end up with the same problem, which is I raised $10 million. Therefore, I got to have a product real quickly. It means I got to have revenue real quickly. I have to figure out how to throw this out there. I have to advertise on Major League Baseball and everything else to get people to use my product so that I can make my VCs happy so that they can make their money, and just chill a little bit and go, let's just figure out where this makes sense. Like what are the actual necessary use cases? Get people to really adopt a little bit at a time, and then you're going to figure out where to go from it. But don't try to guess necessarily at every single use case. I've told you guys all the time, when a dude in Seattle started selling books on the internet, no one had any idea I was going to be able to call a car from my phone or have a conversation with the two of you where I can actually look at you, which we've been doing for the last 3 years solid, right? That was kind of science fiction at the time. And no one was like, oh, well, because this dude is selling books on this weird internet thing, we're totally going to be able to order a car with our phone. Of course we are. Like, no one said that's what's going to happen. So I think a little bit is chill, have a little patience, stop shoving it down everyone's throat. Don't pretend you know exactly how this is going to go and exactly what the use cases are and exactly what the price is going to do, because you don't. And let's just chill out a little bit. And as Tyrone said, get some people to use it. Get some people to dip their toe in a little bit in a way that's safe and secure, in a way that isn't speculation, and see where it goes from there. And, unfortunately, there is still 40, 50, $60 billion worth of VC money out there that someone's going to try to get. But if we just chill out a little bit, we'll kind of see where it needs to go.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think one of the things, and I guess just to recap from what both, I think there's a connector there between what you both said. It's almost like we have to go back to the beginning. We have to go back to the fundamentals. I don't know if that's a pun or not, but go back to the basics, especially, and I like that specific action step there, Adam, which is when things were crashing last time, why was I excited about that? So if you're in the space now, that's a really good practice. Go back, go journal about it, disconnect from your phone, and just go through that practice.
Real quick funny aside to that, because we got to have something entertaining here.
Okay.
So you remember, Tyrone, in 2018, there was 2 days when Bitcoin went from 6,000 to 3,000, right? It was Consensus Invest in New York City, right? It was the first time I'd ever seen Tyrone I'd ever heard him speak or anything. And he came out on the stage at Consensus Invest. It was my second crypto conference. And I was like, who the hell is that dude? Like, that dude's excited about it. And like that night, Bitcoin just absolutely crashed. I mean, just fell through the floor. And it's just funny that, I mean, I don't know, it's funny. Like now we're talking about it again, but I didn't lose any excitement over the technology. The price of the asset at the time sucked, but the whole point of the Bitcoin network is not the price of the asset Bitcoin. The point of the Bitcoin network is anyone in the world can transact financially without having to ask anyone else's permission. That's the point.
Bingo.
In a trusted way.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Bingo. Like that's it. Where do we lose that? We have to get back to that, right? I just want to add this because I think it's really poignant and it makes a ton of sense. And it reminded, I was doing a talk the other day to some college kids with Jamie Hopkins from Carson. And Jamie was like, the more I think about crypto, he goes, an airplane is probably the greatest technology we ever had. I still marvel at it, right? We really, even the experts can't really figure out how airplanes work. It's totally uninvestable, right? It's just a bad investment, right? But the technology is awesome. It provides a lot of utility to people. You have to use it, but it just may not ever be the best investment. But man, oh man, does it add a lot of value to the world? And he goes, crypto may be that thing. He's like, you can't deny the technology of how it's going to improve lives. It's going to take a long time. And yeah, well, some folks make money, sure, but it may not be the greatest investment. So anyway, I just think it aligns with what Adam was saying and the point that you're making. It's just, we got to get back to that.
Yeah, well said. And I think one of the things I did is I went back into, I've got this library of books and, I always try to like, okay, I read this at a certain stage. I was in a certain mindset. What book do I think can actually add more value now rereading it? Because I'm going to see something totally different. So I think a good action step too is rereading those books that got me into the space first. Because when you read it, when you're getting in, and I'm initially excited, I know I'm in a different headspace. So one of those books was, and again, it's just funny. Most of the reasons why I got into crypto are actually from non-crypto resources and non-crypto books. The only crypto sources were two things. And it goes back to, like, I think where you guys have gone. It was the Bitcoin white paper, and then it was the Bitcoin standard. Those are the two things that that got me excited. And I guess one of the books that I read after that was, it was called, Why Smart People Make Big Money Mistakes. I think that's the title of it. And please don't harass me after this, whoever's listening, and how I got it wrong. And I'm blanking on the authors, but that book is now at the top of my list because I know I'm going to figure something out that I didn't see when I first read that book. Because it seems so poignant now, especially when we're trying to figure out, where did we go wrong? Where do we fall off the rails? Why did people make these decisions? It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, agreed. And I will say this, and it's funny, I'm like curating the post in my head as we're talking, but no disrespect to you two brilliant gentlemen, but I think crypto right now is in need of two things. It's missing two things. And I've said this before, and I'm gonna double down on it now, is we're missing our Steve Jobs and we're missing our iPhone moment. Crypto still needs its iPhone moment. Imagine what Steve Jobs would do if he cared enough about crypto. But let's just say he fell in love with crypto and he was still alive. He would find a way to make the most complicated DeFi protocol useful for my mother, who still calls Bitcoin a big nickel. He would find a way. He would be that passionate about it to go, there's a way to make, because no one wanted an iPhone. No, they're going to want an iPhone, I promise you, right? We're going to take the buttons off. We're going to do all, no, they're going to want it. It's going to be sleek. It's going to be, we're missing our iPhone moment, and we're missing that person that kind of come in and just wave their genius over the space and make it useful for every single person. And then it's not such a hard sell. It's not a push. It's not. And I think all of us would agree, but for me, is when you found it, right? Like for me, I remember getting all excited and I told my friend, like, I want to learn everything. I want to learn. And then you kind of like telling everybody, this is gonna, oh my God, right?
Yeah.
Like, who's Satoshi? Like, so some magical person just came and created this internet money and walked away. Yeah, okay. Come see me later.
Yeah,
So-
like ancient aliens, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think we're all guilty of that. But I
Mhm.
think if we all get back to the point now of, all right, how do we make it better? How do we add utility? How do we get people to feel what we felt, right? And I think that's where we really need to go now if we're going to reach the critical mass, right? Go from mass acceptance to mass adoption. I think that's going to be critical moving forward.
And that's important. I've been thinking about those kind of things a lot recently, especially you mentioned Steve Jobs and Apple. And look, one of the brilliant things about Apple and Apple products, and like everything I own is an Apple product. And part of the reason I do is when you buy an Apple product, right, and you take it out of the box, it's ready to go, right? That's one of the beautiful, one, it's boxed beautifully, right? If you guys remember buying computers in like the early 2000s, it came in like the biggest honking cardboard box with, I mean, just tons of waste and everything. And putting it together was a mess. And when you buy an Apple, you open it up and it's on and ready. And you can, if you can't use an Apple product within 5 minutes, there's something wrong with the product. Like there's a mistake, right? The phone, everything just works. And I think that's part of what you're talking about. I think the important thing, Tyrone, that we need to call out is it has to be about actually using it and not how do I go 100x on a token? Like, how do I find the next Shiba Inu? Like I get that a lot in our courses. People are like, well, I want to learn how to find the next one. And I'm like, well, you just need to get out then, because that's not what I do.
Yeah.
I don't know how to find it. And I don't think anyone does, right? If they do, they're selling you something you probably don't want to buy. And you're going to be the exit strategy. I promise you that. So like that's not the direction we want to go. And yes, it has to, we've talked about this a lot. It has to be made easier to actually use. And I think having people step their foot in a little bit, dip their toe in a little bit, is going to get us to that easier to use, because right now the people building are the ones who know how to use it. Like it's really easy for them. They're just like, oh yeah, I mean, they can code this stuff all day. And of course they can build it to where you use it. So if we go back to trust, it's like, all right, I'm going to use a product and I'm going to put my digital assets in this. And it was built by someone who's way smarter than I am in terms of the digital assets. And by the way, this stuff can get hacked and exploited with one line of code. And I'm supposed to trust that dude that gave me this wallet, that they're not going to exploit all my money. That's a really hard thing right now in this world. So there has to be, as Tyrone mentioned, some interplay, but some of that interplay has to be, protocols being able to see each other, and someone being kind of this looking, building a protocol that looks over everything. And you have insurance like Nexus Mutual, but you have to teach people how to use all that easily. It has to be one button. It has to be like, bam, here's your button. You bought coverage for everything you have. You don't have to worry about exploits right now. You're done, right? Like those kind, and these are words that a lot of people don't understand, but those are the kind of things that I think we need. The other real quick, I think the other point that I've gotten to in reading a lot of this stuff is looking, and again, it's a horrible way to learn, but look at what some people are writing now or have written in the past several weeks, and then go all the way back to Terra, Luna, 3AC, all of that. When they were looking at the wallets and seeing where money was moving and analyzing it and figuring out what was going to happen and saying, look, if X token gets below a certain level, then Celsius is going to be liquidated on Maker, and here's what's going to happen. That's a really interesting way to learn how the system works. That's a really interesting way to look on chain at wallets and tokens and the unbelievable level of transparency. Look at the things that actually work and have worked, and figure out why. And if you're a financial professional, if you're an accountant, whatever, go see how those people analyze that. Again, it's a horrible way to learn, to see people losing money, but it's a way to, in real time, go, oh, I can see where money's moving. I can go look at a Dune dashboard and figure out why, where FTX had these 82 different wallets, and I can see what's in those wallets, and I can learn what counterparty risk is now. Like I can be worried about, as Tyrone, I told Tyrone, last week, this week, whatever, the systemic risk in crypto is unbelievable. But people are going to have to learn it. So if there's a time to learn, this is a pretty good one. I don't think there's any doubt the technology keeps plowing forward, because the technology always plows forward, always has, and it always will.
And that's where I want to end. And now this is where I want to spend the last 5 to 7 minutes on, is kind of, what did we see? Like, what have we learned in terms of the actual technology itself, in terms of trust and what they're trying to bring versus what we are experiencing? And so centralized versus decentralized is going to be a lot of elements there. So I'm going to hold it to you guys to make sure I don't forget to go back there to end us off. But I do want to make this real for people. And I'll give you an aha moment for a client of our clients. So we, just for those that don't know, our main service is that we help bring digital assets, not just from an investment perspective, just help advisors understand everything from a technology standpoint, and then what potentially their clients could be doing outside of their purview, so that way they can help protect from any poor decision making outside of that. So one of our advisor clients brought to us one of his biggest clients and uncovered that he had 3 different accounts: BlockFi, Voyager, and Coinbase. So what did we do? We hopped on a call and we said, why did you, again, first question that every advisor should ask about anything is just ask why. Why this, why that, why are you here? Why everything? So we asked. And he's like, I don't know. So that's telling. And I'm trying to make a big investment. So great. We understand that. We see a lot of people want to do the same thing. So what made it real for him is when we pitched our process versus his, and he was like, okay, this makes sense. I clearly don't know what I'm doing. Boom. But that wasn't the magic part. That's just the normal traditional finance. That's the same thing we've all done over the last 10 years when we work with normal clients. The magic is when we said, hey, you're not going to transfer this back to your bank account. What we're going to do is we're going to stay on this call right now, and we're going to do a wallet to wallet transfer. Have you ever done that? Again, guy with 3 different accounts, and I'm not going to disclose how much money, but it was a significant amount of money. And he said, no, I know I have a wallet, but I don't know how to use it. And I said, great, here's what we're going to do. We're going to work together to do this. We conducted all of our transactions via wallets. He then had his big, he's like, that was incredible. And then we tried moving assets onto the platform 6 months later and through bank normal channels. And he actually got mad at us because he said, Mark, I thought we were moving towards this thing. You've shown me this thing. This is not what I thought this is where we were going towards. So then we had to re-educate and go back to the beginning as to, okay, here's where we are. Again, as much as we'd like to be there, we can't do that all the time, especially when we're in certain situations. But I think there was that level of, they got emotional because I've seen this now. I've seen what this can do. Why aren't we there yet? And that's how I think everyone was. Is everyone's trying to get to whatever finish line, whatever finish that they had put in their head. They were trying to get there as quickly as possible. And you can't do that, especially when you're trying to bring forth an innovative, as we've learned, where Adam, you started off with this, is the wisdom you learned from the internet and kind of how we got there. But anyway, I just thought I'd share that real situation, that real scenario, and kind of as to, kind of what we all do and kind of maybe help you all feel better in terms of the education. You may not have seen it, but I guarantee you every piece of education did do something. You just don't know it.
Yeah, no, that's critical, right? And I'll add this, and we've been very transparent about it. On Sunday, I guess it's 3 weeks ago now, before everything melted down on Monday, we had some of our treasury assets at FTX and for the RIA. And my CIO texts me and he goes, did you see this tweet from CZ? I said, that's funny. I was just about to text you. Like, I saw it. And he goes, what do you think we should do? I said, move it right now. Like, move it on chain. I say that to say, to your point, those of us that are close to the shelling points, if you will, that know how to do that, close to the information, know how to act on the information, know the difference between on-chain and off-chain, we're able to act on it. That is highly critical and valuable. But if not, look what happened, right? The next day, everything happens, right? So what we try to do is take that experience and be open and transparent about it, right? You could pull up our public address right now for our treasury and see everything that we've done. But I love that you're saying that is, yes, it's not in vain. That education is not in vain. And now we're able to help other people walk through that. And folks have asked, well, what made you do that? And so on and so forth. And it's literally in our text messages, I was like, FTX ain't going under. But in the event it does, move it. Right? Like, you know what I mean? If you would have stopped me on the street and said, we'll give you $1 million. Is FTX go under or not? No way. But move it anyway. And look what happened, right? So that knowledge, I think that we take for granted to be able to do that. But, like you said, to be able to walk clients through that now, like, what does it mean to transact wallet to wallet and be able to move money in real time and what that looks like? That's incredibly valuable. Now, imagine if the everyday person could do that without you, without me, without Adam, right? I'm moving. And again, I said this on the CNBC spaces I did. Fold up to 20, move it from your right pocket to your left pocket. You should be able to do that yourself, right? And crypto allows you to do that. So thanks for sharing that, man. That's critically valuable. And those are the anecdotes that I think people need to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get into that last section that I wanted to get into then, talking about, again, all back to trust and this idea of decentralized versus centralized actors. And I think what we found and what we're learning is that the technology in the decentralized space, and again, we didn't even get into this, the whole Aave curve, the person who, made a lot of money and then was trying to go, exploit something and via transactions, and it was all snuffed out in like the matter of hours. And it was literally happening real time on Twitter. And I'm still digesting how that whole thing. But so we're not going to get there, but I do want to get your guys' views on this idea of centralized versus decentralized actors and how we are actually seeing everything that's going wrong is with centralized actors. And the actual technology is actually working. How do you go between that? How do you explain that? What that doesn't, like we said at the beginning, most people won't hear that and say, well, I'm going to trust you more now. Like, that's not happening. So how do we bridge that? Adam?
Well, I think part of it is to, again, see that you have this really cool technology that if you go back to what it's meant for, what Bitcoin is meant for, and if we extrapolate further, what Ethereum and decentralized finance and self-custodied wallets and all that is for, is I can transact with you two. Anyone in the world can transact financially. And eventually when we get into wallets, anyone can prove ownership, prove identity, all those things that we think are going to happen. And I don't know they're going to happen. I feel like they're going to happen without having to ask anyone else's permission. And that's the kind of the most important thing to think about here. Then we try to create I don't want to say try to create an asset class out of it. And when you try to create the asset class, you have to have the prime brokerage and all those things that come with making an asset class out of what is a technology. And that's kind of what happened, if we want to get theoretical. I feel like, look, we all know people are people, and we can, like, I can trust you because I know you. I can feel kind of good about some people, but overall, humans are humans, and there's kind of a lack of trust there. As Tyrone said earlier, this was the dude that we all picked to be the dude, the guy that we trusted. He looked different, he looked a little different than most of the banker billionaires we had seen in the past, right? He acted a little different. And like we have to be careful about that centralization that kind of went against the ethos of the whole point of the technology, right? If the centralization goes against what the technology is supposed to do, and it's only there because because a few people want to make a lot of money, then you go, all right, are we really helping ourselves? And again, Mark, I don't even know if I'm fully answering the question, except to say, I don't want to say every centralized point, like every centralized player is bad, because we've seen several that are really good and have made a point of being very good and making sure that they're being as transparent as they can or as compliant as they can or whatever it might be. But also realize that the purpose of the technology is for decentralization. That's the whole point. And we have to understand why that still works. Look at the products, look at the protocols, look at the projects that are still working, even in the downturn, even in the winter, even in all these things, they're still working. And understand, okay, we can't necessarily overall trust people with our money. We can trust the code. We can trust the technology that's being built. And now we just have to figure out what that kind of happy medium is. How can we have a financial system? How can we have people transacting products, protocols, compliance, regulation, and everything in a way where people still have to be involved, but I can outsource some of that trust now to electronic code to where I can still get advice from the people I trust.
Mm-hmm. No,
and again, I apologize. I don't even know if I answered your question.
No, you answered it. And I think one of the things I want to highlight in that is that, and one of the things we are trying to do and kind of blocking and tackling with is that this is one centralized bad actor, one centralized bad entity who is intently doing things to commit fraud and all the things that we've known. I'm not going to dive into that. And that's to say that everyone, because full disclosure, we are a centralized entity. Arbor Digital is a centralized entity operating with centralized partners. We're all centralized. So I think one of the things that I think I'm I don't want to say scared of, but I think we're going to overcorrect to where every single centralized entity now cannot be trusted. And so what I've been grappling with my mind is I know that there are good centralized players. It's the same thing in traditional finance. There are very bad centralized entities in traditional finance too. We've talked about some of them already on this show. But how did we get to where, okay, to a level of trust to where we will trust other centralized entities? And I guess that's what I'm grappling with. But Tyrone, I'd love to finish off with your thoughts on the whole centralized versus decentralized.
Yeah, so I'm going to take off my financial advisor hat here, and I'm going to put on my builder entrepreneur hat. And I don't make the distinction. I think the technology and what I've been fighting for is to use crypto networks and protocols and technology to make centralized entities better. Why are we still using overnight files to transfer data on client positions? Why is it that we're still using email, date of birth, all these other things to verify clients? This all can be better. I've been fighting for this for years, right? The other thing now is, again, shout out to Nick Carter and those folks with proof of reserves, right? Being able to show, fine, centralized, and what do you have there? This technology provides full visibility. How are some of these folks saying, no, we're not going to do it? No, you should do it. Yep. Show everything highly audible in real time. Proof of reserves, proof of liabilities, money movement, security, segregated accounts, all of these things are very important that you allow to do, right? The Fireblocks technology, I don't think people really take seriously enough. It is incredible what they're able to do. One wallet, all of those accounts under that same entity. That's huge, right? So many different things here, right? What Bosonic is doing. There's so many different things to be able to finally be able to show people, here, we're going to change it. Here's what's just going on at centralized entity. That's one part. The other part of it is from a DeFi, and I promise not to get in my financial access and inclusion part here, but the DeFi part of it, to me, I'm just so enamored with, because there are still, right? There's 6,500 banking deserts in this country. Still 10 miles. That means that there's folks can't go in either direction and find a bank, right? And the ability for people to transact in real time with someone else to transfer value, right? And to save money and all these different things. Now, that a bit, and think about, and I know this is the most ridiculous things, but I'm so enamored with flash loans, and I get what it's being used for now. But think about the utility if we're able to get that right for people to have an online, right, or a digital credit score, and to be for someone to be a protocol, be able to pick that up. Oh, this person's trustworthy, right? Mm-hmm. And then now that score, right? There's a friend of mine is building a company like this. Can't think of the name of it right now, but Christopher Brookins is his name, but Rosify, right? So I have this social credit score, and then I'm able to get money in real time, dropped into my wallet or whatever, be able to lend, borrow, whatever the case may be. Those are the things that I think we need to get to. Now that's incredibly valuable for people to make it easy for them to not be tied to getting their credit scores hacked or all these different things. So I think there needs to be, again, the builders need to come together and build these solutions to just make the existing infrastructure better, the infrastructure that where I think the three of us agree, it's all going there anyway, right? There's this space in the middle where we could use the technology to build just to grab both sides and pull them together in the interim, make it faster, cheaper, better, then eventually it's in my pocket. Everything's here, right?
Mhm.
So that's my entrepreneur hat speaking there.
No, I love
and
that.
that's great. It's funny, real quick, Mark.
Go ahead.
The thing that you can pull it all together for, especially for centralized entities and even decentralized, is the crypto tech is there to make it more trustworthy. It's already there. You can already look at wallets. You can already have someone audit those really easily. And you can even have, I think I brought this up to someone in one of the few moments that I had free to write this in the last couple of weeks, but why is it so hard for an auditor to audit wallets and books and then actually have to stake $1 million DAI on their audit? Like, why is that so hard? We have the tech to do it.
Yep.
And so why are we trying to go the old way, except for the fact that we've always done it this way? This is the way the financial system works. And now we're going to have to move the other way. And as Tyrone said, we stretch and we bring them together to the point that people can get on board and actually use the technology. And we can't pretend that we know what the use cases are going to be in 10 and 15 years. We don't have a clue what the use cases are going to be when people start figuring out, like, oh, I can custody my own stuff because of my phone. That's really cool. Now what am I going to do next? Because every use case we're coming up with is a Web 2 or a TradFi use case that's made a little bit more efficient or a little bit more trustworthy or whatever because of crypto, which is just an incremental change. The use cases we're going to see in 10 and 15 years, we can't even fathom right now because we haven't thought of them because we haven't started to use it enough yet.
Yep.
Right. So that's what's going to be cool. But as Tyrone was saying, the tech is already there to make the centralized entities more trustworthy. We just have to actually use it.
Oh, I think that's the spot. That's the spot. The technology is there. We just have to convince the people to use it. Whew. All right.
No, we don't have to convince it. Just start using it. I mean, Tyrone was saying, bring the industry together. Just start. A few people go, here's the standard. If you're going to be an exchange, if you're going to be a custodian, here's what you got to do. Proof of reserves, proof of liabilities. You got to get a third-party audit. The auditor has to stake X number of dollars per dollar you have under custody. If the auditor is not big enough yet to be able to stake $1 million, go find some others that'll stake on your behalf. And if you're wrong, you get slashed. It's the same way it happens. We have the tech. Just go do it. Don't wait. Don't beg the regulators, please put this regulation in place, because they're going to take 5 years to 10 years to do it. We're going to be way past it. Just go do it. Just go. Here's the standard. We're all going to come together and do it. This industry has moved at light speed for the last 13 years.
Yeah.
So just keep doing it. Like it's really not, I don't want to say it's not that hard. It is that hard, but we keep moving at light speed. If you want to keep doing that, if you want to, we don't want to keep hurrying up and breaking things, because they just got broken pretty bad. So let's chill out for a little bit. Let's make it safer. Let's let people actually use it and figure out what they're going to use it for in the future, and use the tech that we have, and don't try to speculate on what's going to be there in 5 and 10 years. Use what we got, get people on board, then figure out where we go next. And that's really easy. I say it's easy for me to say sitting here, but it's also hard for me to say, because I've turned my career into teaching people how to use this cool new technology. And then I'm telling people to chill out and wait on it a little bit, but we got to teach people how to use it, or they're going to screw it up.
Well, and I think tying this all back to trust, I think there are people you can trust. There are technology pieces that you can trust. It's really hard to decipher where and when that you can trust it. And people underpin everything, no matter what the technology is. And we've talked about that. So again, let's tie this all back. We've jammed a lot. Guys, thank you so much. But a couple closing thoughts. So don't overcorrect. Go back to the beginnings. Go back to the fundamentals. And then I guess last thing, Tyrone, to leave our audience with, as they go out and head out into the next 1 month with their families and the next 6 months in this world, what advice would you give people who are going to stay here and build and go there? What would you tell them right now? What advice?
Your soul. Search your soul, period. Search your soul. And that's what this really comes down to. Search your soul, humanity. Do you care about humanity enough to add value to solve human problems. Search your soul. And if it doesn't add any value to millions, scrap it. Period.
Love it. Very well said. Adam.
I don't think I can really beat that.
It's not trying to beat it.
I don't want to, but yeah, it's not about beating it, man. I agree. And again, it's easy for us to say that in the aftermath of what has happened. I think we feel, and I know from Tyrone, we've had private conversations about this, the frustration that we have felt probably in the last couple of years of everyone making it this get rich quick. I just want to learn how to find the next token that's going to go up 100x. That's been frustrating, but it goes back to figuring out what, if you're looking to be in this industry, if you're looking to build, and this industry could be finance and helping people with crypto. It could be helping, figuring out what your business is going to be there. It could be building something new if you're a programmer, if you're an entrepreneur, whatever it is. But again, figure out why this technology is going to make us better. And again, if it's not going to make us better, then now's probably not the best time to be building something that's going to hurry up and break things. Mm-hmm. Now's the time to build something that's going to make society better. We got enough crap going on. Mm-hmm. We don't need anything that's going to bring anyone down right now. There's enough bad stuff happening without stealing a bunch of people's money.
Amen to that.
So if we can have this technology that actually makes people's life better at this time, then let's go do that. And I'm all for helping people figure out how to learn it. I don't care where you are in the world. I'm all for helping you figure out how to have money literally in the palm of your hand because you got your phone, and it's wherever you are.
Yeah. Well said. So well, thank you both for sharing. Thank you for bringing everything you did to this episode. I know there's a lot of people who are confused, worried, don't really understand what's happening, and don't know what to do with all of it. I know I've personally, and as we've all personally gone through some emotional roller coasters and still going to continue. So I know bringing this to the world is really important. So thank you, gentlemen, for coming on and doing this with me today. Really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us, Mark. Thanks for putting this together.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. As you finish your week with your families, be sure to tell all of them that you care about them. And gentlemen, I care about you guys, and we'll see you on the next time. I'm gonna find the mouse. We appreciate you listening to this edition of the Asset Revolution podcast. I'm your host, Marc Nichols. Please don't forget to let us know how you like the show by rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you like to listen. For more downloadable digital asset resources and educational opportunities, please visit us at arbordigital.io. We are here to help you get off zero safely and securely. Thanks again for tuning in, and be sure to tell someone you care about them. Cheers.
Financial advisor, unless you're under contract with or actively speaking with Arbor Capital Management or Arbor Digital, a division of Arbor Capital Management. This podcast is just that, a podcast. It is not financial, legal, or tax advice. If you have individual questions, please reach out.